Whew, what a day. Like the street food finally got me last night. I woke up not doing too good this morning, and I've kind of basically been on my ass all day, unfortunately. But anyways, I'm taking lots of fluids in. I might try to eat something here in a little bit, maybe. But it's getting a little, drives you a little bonk. I can't stand not doing anything. And being laid up on my butt sucks. But anyway, I think I'm not too bad right now. I can pull off doing this. So I'm going to do this. So listen to this. Southwestern Pennsylvania mountains. Hello, Steve. Please don't use my name. Still trying to make a living. Okay. I've been listening since the grizzly stories. You have a gift. The one with the moose and the bear and the guy from West Virginia is a classic. Thanks for the entertainment. Yeah, no shit. Unfortunately, that really happened. I wasn't looking to be an entertainer from it, but yeah, that was a crazy experience. Then came the Sasquatch stories. He become a daily ritual for me and many others, I'm sure. I've said several times to my family the possibly 1,000 encounters I have listened to you read, even if only 25% were true. That's 250 life-changing situations. Who am I to criticize? I was not there. I'm sure there are some creative writers sending stories, although, for what glory? Yeah, no shit, right? I'd also bet most are true, honest people telling the story. We are merely a speck in who knows what's out there. Stare into the endless sky on a clear night, it doesn't end. Every time I listen to you, I'm reminded of an unexplainable event I had back in the late 80s. I was in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge, bow hunting state land, using a baker climbing tree stand, trying not to slide down the tree. Those were the days. I was below a small swamp in a transition area to laurel and hardwoods. I was there less than an hour when breaking the silence was 3 or 4 alarmingly loud, low grunts, like the loudest bullfrog/buck from the gut grunts. I was in my 20s, in the early stages of an archery obsession. I'd never heard a buck grunt in the woods before. No YouTube yet, just watched a lot of VHS low-quality hunting shows, never hearing deer vocalization. Standing there wondering what the hell was that. A few minutes later, the cracking sound of a Louisville slugger bat cracked a tree, harder and louder than I could ever produce, 3 or 4 times with a pause of maybe 5 seconds in between. Now I was really in what the F mode. I was thinking someone was messing with me, another hunter or a guy that I was hunting with. The noise came from about 80-90 yards away in a thick brushy area, but sounded like he was right next to me. After about 10 minutes, I saw a brief glimpse of tan, brown something move right to left, only for a moment. At 100 yards, it moved through the thick brush. I convinced myself it was a deer, but the movement was the color. Sorry. Let me try reading that again. I convinced myself it was a deer, but the movement, as was the color, were odd, as was the whole encounter. No buck can make the cracking sound I heard. I've since watched bucks fight, never hearing any similar sound, and a single animal rubbing a tree. Later that season, possibly the next year, about a quarter mile deeper into the same game lands, about a half an hour before dark, just out of sight in a drainage, I heard super loud, aggressive, low grunting, as something ultimately pushed over a tree. The tree sounded large and heavy when it hit the ground with a hard thud. I assume it was a bear, looking for a beehive or something else to eat. Pennsylvania has some big bears. I got down as quiet as I could and snuck out of there. After those strange moments in the hunting woods, I found myself sleeping in more often and walking in and out, avoiding the dark. I'm curious if anyone else has had any unexplainable happen in the late 80s in my neck of the woods. You just read one, a February 5th, 23, from Somerset County, just north of my area. That prompted me to finally write this. Thanks, Steve. F our governments. They're all a bunch of lying-cheating bastards. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There you go. And this is why we share no matter what, right? Because you're going to help your neighbor. And someone who's somewhat of a neighbor of you knee-jerked you and have finally given this one up. So good for you for coming out and You know, just the fact that you reacted, that your natural instincts are making you react to not go in the woods in the dark, that should probably give you a heads up that you know that's not a bear, right? Nobody changes up their entire habits of when they do and don't go in the woods because they think they heard a bear, right? Your guts know what happened. Your sixth sense knows exactly what happened and what it was, without a doubt. But anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. You know you're not alone. There's just tens and tens and tens of thousands of people have had the exact same and more, what you might call worse experience than that too, right? Associated with the same sounds, the same shit. You know, the only thing that I've ever heard that was real loud, and I've had that clip on my videos a few times, is when I was guiding a guy, and did we already have his moose? I don't think we had his moose, because we're obviously moose hunting. But anyways, we're in this burn, and I called in a couple pretty big bulls, and they came in from different directions, like maybe a quarter mile away on the left, quarter mile away on the right, and they both started calling. They were coming to meet in the middle, and I stood on top of a log, and I videotaped them when they smashed heads. I'll tell you what, that's the loudest sound that I've heard in the woods for a bonk from a wild animal is two moose. When they come together in a real fight, it's like a car accident. It's crazy. You just picture yourself being in between those antlers that just pinch it in half like nothing. But anyways, I've heard the knocking sounds. The best way we can describe them is knocking. Am I convinced that it's actually wood on wood now? Now that I've been sponging off all of you? I got a funny feeling it's not actually wood on wood at this stage of the game. That's just me though, right? It's just me. But anyway, you're probably watching more my, I had that whole SD card from a trail camera on my external drive that I threw in my bag, and I have here. And I shared one half of it on that video yesterday, and I got a few emails of people pointing out that there was something lit up in the forest. Well, I found those for the first time, I think maybe a month ago, and I put that in a video on this channel. I don't know if it's a short or what, but it's in here within the month. I put a video up about it, and you can't drive a vehicle down there. So anyway, I'll use the other half. I think there was 200 and something video clips in that SD card, and I used 96, I think, to roll some B-roll while you listen to my annoying voice. Better than looking at my mug, right? So I'll use the other half in this video, and that's what we're looking at now already. Now, thanks for sending that in, man. Thanks for sending it in. And anybody else is a neighbor to this man, comment in the comment section below. Or if you've got something significant that you think we can sponge off of, email it to me, all right? Now, what else do we got? These are all recent, by the way. I just took these right off the top in the email inbox. What I believe led up to my encounter is the title of this email. Hi Steve, you read my story in March 22. I had my encounter of October 21. I want to start by saying it took me a long time to wrap my head around this. For a while I was questioning my sanity. I live in a town in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I am 4.5 miles from O'Hare Airport. For the last 15 years or so, I've been seeing what I call flying stars in the night sky. They stop, turn right, left. They turn up and down and fly out of our skies. Okay, earlier in 2021, around August, I saw two globes while I was standing on my front porch. They came out of the sunlight, and I thought a car dealership lost their balloons. They had the color of the sun in them. One of the globes turned to the west and took off like a bat out of hell. The other went under a plane landing at O'Hare Airport and continued on a northeasterly direction. The second thing I saw a few weeks later at night was a UFO in my neighborhood from my backyard. I saw a red light floating in the air, then a dark blue light turned on next to the red one. It continued to float from the south to the north. Then it lit up very bright lights from underneath it. On the underside near the edges were very bright spotlights. At least 100 of them. The center had one very big bright spotlight. On the sides were long lights of varying colors, red, blue, yellow, and green. It continued to float north. The only sound it made was like if you stood under a power line and the humming sound you hear. I was standing there in disbelief. I could not believe what I was seeing. As I stood there, low-lying clouds began to come over my house as the sky began to become cloudy. I saw a flying star come out of the north, heading south, and turn towards me, making a banking left turn. The UFO then began to shoot straight up to meet the flying star. I could see the UFO go straight up through the clouds. Okay, now this is where it gets crazy, if this is not crazy enough. A few days after this, I got up around 12:30 in the morning and let the dogs out. I walked to the backyard to make sure there was no skunks there. I stood on my deck backstairs waiting for my dogs to finish. I let them in the house. I was looking around and noticed a very large and dark two-legged thing, about 9 to 10 feet in height, run between the houses on the next street behind mine. I could not believe what I saw. I said to myself, this can't be happening. I couldn't go back to sleep, so I sat on our front porch enjoying the early morning. I just finished listening to one of your podcasts when all of a sudden from across the street I saw, running towards me, rabbits, squirrels, and birds, and they came from the neighbor's backyard turning right and left when they noticed me. As this is happening, the tall bush in my neighbor's yard began to shake violently. Then the next thing I can only describe as infrasound began to hit me. I started to become confused and wanting to walk towards it. Then I remembered what you, David P., and Scott always said, go in the opposite direction a bit. So I went inside my house. I had to go into the kitchen before it stopped. I could not believe what had just happened. That morning after my wife went to work, I took our dogs for a walk and noticed on my curb in front of my house was 3 river rocks in a flower pattern. Again, I could not believe what was happening. I was too afraid to say anything to my family, thinking they would throw me in the crazy house. I saw these rocks all day on my curb. The next morning I took the dogs on a walk and they were gone. I was thinking to myself, that's okay, maybe some kids took them, right? In October we were going out to Galena, Illinois to duck hunt. It's the day before opening season. Myself and 2 sons are with me. As we drove out there taking Route 20, we stopped in Stockton for a bathroom break and then we continued on Route 20. A few miles down the road, on the north side of the road, was a tree teepee made up of 5 to 6 trees, similar to what you taped doing a podcast you did in one of your videos. On the south side of Route 20, a few miles down, was another tree teepee made up of 4 trees. And again, I could not believe what I'm seeing. And I don't say anything to my sons. I just could not wrap my head around this. How could this be happening to me? When we get to where we are going to hunt, we have to walk down a railroad track for about a mile, then walk into the woods and walk around the slough to get to where we are going, to set up our duck blind. As we're walking out there, we pass up a tree with a fork in it. And in the fork of the tree is a branch that grew in an L shape. Now, yeah, a branch could have fallen there, but next to the tree is a sapling that's about 1 inch in diameter, bent over in a circle, and does not look like any other tree in this area. I picked the L branch up and began to feel like I was being watched. I said to myself, stop being paranoid. I still can't believe what is happening to me. I took pictures of this, but when looking at them, they just don't look like what I saw. I didn't send them. So, opening day, we shot in the morning, and in the afternoon, we went over to the other side of the slough where 2 other hunters were hunting. That morning, the slough was extremely low this year, and the only real amount of water was on that side, and the ducks weren't following that. It was about 3 p.m. when we went to this side for the evening hunt. My brother-in-law stayed in our blind, and me and my sons went to the other side. Nothing was coming in, and I was looking around, enjoying being out in the woods. The woodpeckers pounding on the trees, the snipes running on the mud, eating bugs, and I was bullshitting with my sons, enjoying the moment, when I heard 3 very loud owl hoots. Now, for me, owl hoots are low in speed and low in tone. These sounded very loud, like there was lung capacity behind them. It's the only way I can describe them. It sounded like there was 3 separate hoots. Now, listening to you and Dave and Scott talk about encounters, you hear a lot about hearing owl hoots. As I turned and looked at the woods, there standing about 80 yards away were 2 creatures. One was black. It was about 9 feet tall. And the brownish one, looking like Chewbacca, standing over 11 feet tall. Its head was in the tree canopy. The black one had its head cocked to the right, looking at me. The width of the black one at its shoulder was at least 4 to 4.5 feet wide, and the brown one was about 5 to 5.5 feet wide. You could see the gray, leathery look on the face of the black one. I could not see the face of the brown one. When my son asked me a question, I turned my head for a few seconds to answer him. When I turned back, they were gone. This is my encounter. When I was listening to Scott Carpenter talk about portals, I saw what he taped. I wondered if a portal is what happened to me where I live. I can't see a Sabe walking around in my area where I live, but you never know. Steve, you said, when we send you what we have seen, we should put it all down. I did not include this in my original story because it took me almost a year to wrap my head around what had happened to me. I know I'm not crazy. It just takes a while to understand and accept it. This may help put the puzzle pieces together for other people who may have seen things in the sky and the Sabe. They are real. And thank you, Steve, for all you do. You can use my name, Jamie Hartzell, and I am a member of the Club of No Return. Yep, aren't we all hundreds of thousands of us, hey man? Thanks for sending that in. I hope that helps sharing it. You know, it's in a way, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel yet. In a way, is it good that your sons didn't see, or is it would have been better for them to see? I don't know. Because I do know that due to our misdirection in life from a young age, from the public school systems, and yeah, I say it a lot, but I mean it. I am absolutely 110% convinced it's the wrong thing to do. But anyway, the shock would just be too much. The shock's too much for your average person because we aren't even taught a hint about this real shit that's going on in the real world. We're not even taught a slight hint. If anything, we're taught the opposite, to believe that it's a joke, right? And then when that joke comes to be real, slapped in your face, too many people just can't handle it, have a meltdown, lose their friendship with whoever was with them when they saw it, or they get PTSD, or they never go near the woods ever again, on and on and on. We've even had people who turned to alcohol and drugs and lost the plot, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know what would have been better, you know what I mean? If the kids saw it or not. But anyway, thanks for sending that in. Your description's bang on with how many others, right? How many others? So many. Who's next? Listen to this. An encounter I didn't ask for. Okay, man. None of us have. Steve, thank you for the work you put in being a take-no-shit stand-up man. There's less and less every year. As you know, there are countless people who you have helped to elevate various forms of PTSD. Sometimes taking it out is the best way to deal with it. Sorry, talking it out is the best way to deal with it. These frickin' glasses, God, they're nasty. These readers. And for that, I thank you again. I'm old enough to have no F's left to give to or for anyone. It's quite liberating. I was raised in eastern Idaho. They didn't say I grew up there, as I've never really grown up. I'll get to the point. My encounters. My first was summer '74. A friend and I were riding our dirt bikes in the forest. As I topped a hill, I clicked into neutral and shut off the bike and coasted down a very long hill. My friend did the same. The only sound was our chains running over the sprockets of the bikes. We coasted about a half a mile to an overlook over a river. We were 300 feet above the river, and the river was about the same width. We just sat there in the shade, enjoying the quiet of the forest and the river below us. After about 5 minutes, I realized the only bird and animal sounds came from up the hill behind us. My friend and I didn't have to talk much to understand each other, so we never said a word. We looked at each other and motioned to the sounds behind us and also to the soundless expanse before us. We were looking at the far riverbank, looking for elk, moose, bear, or deer. In the shadows of trees on the opposite bank, we saw some movement at the water's edge. It was almost black, dark in the shadows. It took us several minutes to start to see an outline of whatever was at the river's edge in the shadows. We're not sure what it was, but could tell it was big and dark. We thought we were watching a grizzly drinking at the river. It was a spectacular sight. We stayed silent, and after a few more minutes, the grizzly stood up. Not a grizzly, but a very large, very tall man. 7 feet or greater in height. Shoulders and chest were massive. The man stepped out into the water, and that's when we realized what we were watching. A Sabe, a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, the name doesn't matter. We know what we saw. Being raised by a hunting family, I noticed stay motionless. My friend started to move to start his bike, but I grabbed his arm and pushed a finger to my lips. We were well shaded, but the little motion from us caused a huge beast below us to look up directly at us as it backed into the shadows. It disappeared into the darkness of the trees and the undergrowth. About 200 feet away from the bank, we saw a lodgepole pine start to sway violently. Funny, there was no wind that late summer afternoon. I wish that was the end of the story, but the encounter affected our friendship. Something was different from that day on. I tried to talk to him about it, but he denied even ever being there. Life is too short, and true friends too few to let needless ushuru, bracket Swahili word for shit, and bracket, get in between your ears, but it happens. I'm still bitter that 2 best friends could end up strangers because of something entirely out of their control. I've had 2 other encounters in my life. One in Idaho and one in Colorado where I live now. I've taken more than enough of your time, and I already do appreciate everything you do. I might write about my other episodes, who knows. I'd love to twist off a bottle top or pour you your favorite bourbon and talk sometime. Or better yet, grab the sticks and string and find a couple of big bull elk. Stay safe, amigo, and thank you, Z. Okay, man, thanks for that. That's a shitty deal about your buddy, and that's another thing that pisses me off, because that shit wouldn't happen if we were informed with the knowledge from the word go, right? That shit would not happen. Oh, it pisses me off. The amount of friendships have been destroyed because 2 or 3 or more people saw what they didn't ask to see, and it affects the minds of some people. I don't know how common that is. What would you guys think? Maybe 1 in 6 people lose their shit, and they do not even want to see the person they're with to remind them of that encounter, right? And they block them out of their life at all cost. People not going to the woods anymore, people quitting their jobs, people getting fired from their jobs, people getting divorced, and they didn't ask for any of it. It's a shitty deal. Thanks for sending that in, man. Appreciate it. And you get in the mood, too. Or you know what? You never know. Whatever the other experiences you've got, they might help somebody, right? So there's obviously, you guys all got to think about that factor, too, sometimes when you got more. You might not think so, but you never know, right? It might help somebody else, whatever else you got. I can hear a cat screaming its guts out there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that's what that sound is. Some alley cat giving her. Next one's titled Salem, Kentucky. Hi, Steve. 45 years old, and I live in western Kentucky. A small farm town. Been here my whole life except a 4-year period in Southern California. I've been in the woods as a hunter for most game here since a young boy. I've walked into and out of the woods plenty of times, hearing the rustle of leaves from something trailing me many times. Knowing the animals in the area, I'm sure it was a fox. Nothing out of the ordinary until the summer 2016, August 16th, 2016 to be exact. A friend of mine had come by to return some tools. While standing around my garage, we got to talking about 4-wheeler rides from the past and how much fun we used to have. Being that I had 2, 4 sitting right there. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant a quad. Being that I had a 2-4 sitting right there, we decided, hell, why not go for a ride? It was a nice summer evening, and we decided to go and set out. Okay, I guess you meant 2 4-wheelers, not a 2-4 beer. Or maybe both. Sorry. The previous spring, I'd helped a farmer friend of mine by doing some tillage work to plant some soybeans. I worked on a piece of property I'd never been on, even though it was only 4 miles out of town. The place had some trails extended from the back of the property, and I remember thinking to myself that I wanted to come explore those trails one day. And being that we didn't have any certain place in mind, I thought we'd check those trails out. So we head off down the highway towards the property. Going across the fields, the light fading, we reached the woods and started up the trail. We went about 100 feet into the woods, and the trail split into 2 directions. Veering sharply to the left and barely to the right, the trail became a wide spot, so I decided it was a good spot to stop. We stayed in the spot for at least 20 minutes. During that time, we both were off of our 4-wheelers. standing all around and talking to each other. So by this time it was pretty much dark in the woods, and decided to advance on towards the direction to the right. My four-wheeler was on the right side of his and right beside it. We mounted our four-wheelers at the same time, and about the time my nads hit the seat, all hell broke loose. All I heard was the loudest noise, like a small bomb had went off in front of my wheeler. It shook my four-wheeler, and I also felt like my face got peppered with something. Immediately, I knew this was not right, and fear set in quickly as I looked over at my friend. His ass was frozen, about 1 foot above the seat. His expression was of pure fear as I asked him, "What did you do?" Meaning that I thought he had actually done something to make all the commotion. He yelled out into the dark woods, "Hey, hey!" as if to warn whatever this danger was off of us. Within seconds, my friend had started his wheeler up and spun around and was headed out of the woods. Now, let me tell you this. I could not, for the life of me, make myself spin around and exit the area like my friend had done. In my mind, in my state of being, I could not make myself inch forward. Instead, I chose to back up first and cut to the left and pull out to the right and go. So, as I did this maneuver, when I was backing away, my headlights shined on, and I was even more horrified to see what I would call a very large chunk of wood, around 3.5 feet long by at least 10 to 12 inches circumference. Nobody is telling me that some man threw that damn thing. It didn't drop from the canopy either. It was thrown straight down the trail, and by something supernatural, I believe. Now, I will not say that I've seen or smelled anything resembling a Sasquatch, but the eerie feeling of fear was something I had never experienced so intensely. I figured out that what I felt on my face when it hit was specks of dirt and wood particles off the piece of wood. Once again, I remember vividly the size of the log, and there is no man I know that could throw it that hard. That was the scariest part I remember. The sheer confusion of being struck with such force. It took me 2 days to work up enough nerve to go back in there. I walked in armed to the teeth. The log was gone with no trace, no tracks, but a few small saplings had been twisted very badly at the base and leaned over the trail. These trails lead up to a big rocky point, full of caves and deep gullies. I started looking into the whole Sasquatch thing and all the evidence. I'm leaning more towards believing these beings are real. I feel like we ran into a day watcher holding his post, and he did not want us to come an inch closer, guarding the rest of the family. It seems this has changed my life in many ways. I watch out who I tell the story to. That's it. It's the end of the story. Okay, man. Yeah, that would be a shitty experience for anybody. I don't know what the hell's going on when they try to scare people away. It's not like we can do anything to them, right? I don't get it. I don't know. But it's funny, I was thinking, I just had a kind of a funny thought the other day when, was I listening to one or reading something? I think I was listening to something. Somebody describing this being basically spitting on him. It was so close to him, and the look on his face was absolute pure anger and hatred looking at this human being. And I was picturing, like if it is true that they cannot harm us unprovoked, if there's some kind of solid rule, and imagine if you had absolute confidence in that rule. Like, imagine if you knew without a doubt 150% that rule is in place and these people could not put a finger on you unprovoked, and all of a sudden you had a face-to-face with one of these big bastards. And I was thinking, well, obviously it would take a set of nuts like frickin' titanium, but could you imagine if you knew that, 100% confidence, and you just faced up to him and said, yeah, what you gonna do now there, fatty? What are you do? Your breath smells like shit, you ugly bastard. What are you gonna do now? Ha ha, can't do nothing. Something like childish like that, whatever. But wouldn't that be something else if we knew without a doubt that there was a rule there, they could not physically touch us unprovoked, and this shit you could do back to them, right? Said no one ever. All right, sorry for that ridiculous ramble. Let's get another voice heard. Oh, I'm gonna have to try to eat something eventually here. I don't know what I'm gonna try to eat though, but anyway. All right, here we go. This is titled, get comfortable here. It's titled Just Happened. Hey Steve, this may sound strange to some, but it's been a reality for me since I've been a kid. I always had dreams that are just not dreams. I'm not even sure that what one would call them, but usually these dreams happen during the witching hour, and they seem to be like a spiritual reality dream of what is really going on, explaining what I can't see with my own eyes. Anyways, my dream was about me inside in bed, odd, and could sense a presence outside but no noise. The dog didn't even notice. In the morning I figured I would wander out back to see what the heck I was sensing. Sure enough, I saw large spread out footprints in the snow, evidence of Bigfoot, and could feel its presence but never seeing it. The bastard showed evidence of walking up to my bedroom window, followed by looking in each of my kids' windows. The footprints also went to my car window and then traced off to the forest in my backyard. I faced the forest and shouted, "Leave my family alone, you bastard. You're not welcome here." I didn't like the feeling I got. The feeling like I'm outside alone, unarmed, and this thing's watching me in overcast daylight. I went inside and was furious about the evidence I saw and was telling my wife so the kids couldn't hear and could suddenly sense something outside again. I saw the large, black, hairy streak go by the windows and called my wife, "There it is." I proceeded to the one large window that overlooked our entryway. This massive creature was hunched over trying to get under our porch steps. I called my wife over thinking she would be too slow to see it in time, but this time she saw it. I banged on the window. Then it began desperately trying to squeeze under the house steps and realized I got caught. I sat back on the ground and slowly turned to It sat back on the ground and slowly turned to look at us as if to say, "Okay, fine, you caught me. So what? What are you going to do about it? Now I'm looking at you." The dream ended by me loading a shotgun with slugs. The beast, I could tell, had light tan-colored skin that I could see through its hairy coat. Its back was as tall and broad, span of the roof of a family car, and its face kind of looked ape-like. I didn't expect to see the details as I did. I didn't like what I imagined it to, but I remember seeing a police sketch of one that looked just like this one. His eyes were closed together, smooth black obsidian buttons, and his nose long and teardrop shaped, more goofy looking than scary. Not sure what this dream means, but planning to be ready for whatever. Cheers. All right, man. Normally people don't write in about their dreams, but unfortunately a whole pile of people have wrote in about dreams, and also at the same time having things happen for real while they're not asleep. So there's definitely something going on there, right? And yeah, I guess I'll add to this just something minor, but when I was looking for these things intentionally near Pemberton and Lillooet, before I got the shit scared out of me, I had a whole bunch of dreams of being chased and having one of these things after me. Like, it was so real, it was stupid, it scared the shit out of me. I just chalked it up to obviously what was going on in my mind at the time. Did they do it intentionally? Who knows? I don't know. Thanks for sending that in. I hope none of that shit comes true, man. A lot of people have the dreams, right? A lot of people see shit in their houses too. Too many people report seeing things in their houses for us to look away. Too many. Alright, here's another one. "Friends Scared Shitless" is the title of this email. "Steve, I've been holding this back for 30 years. It is time it was heard by all who will take from it for what they will. Back in the 80s, two of my varmint hunting buddies, to which I trust and hunted with for years, shared an encounter of a wild kind with me. I wanted to see this for myself, and my one friend was going to take me there to see for myself. My wife at the time would not have it, for I had a family to take care of. My buddies was scoping out this zone that was hard to get in the draw. By luck, they got tags 4x8. A few weeks before season was to open, they set up camp and was quail and varmint hunting. They ran across some tunnels with steel doors on them and saw some strange-looking tracks coming out from behind the big steel doors. At night, some strange screams and howls were heard. That was all it took to put them in night patrol mode, like they did in the Army. This country is mostly granite boulders with patches of timber. By the way, the crow flies not far from where Ron Moorhead recorded the Sierra sounds at. What they observed late at night was some strange crossbreed animals, like you never set eyes upon. Something right out of the pages of The Island of Dr. Monroe. Like mountain goat bodies with a bare head on it, and others with a description just like Dogman and Sasquatch. There was tire tracks, along with strange animal coming from the tunnels that looked like someone tried to brush out, but was not done well. If you looked out a few thousand yards from the tunnels, you could pick the tracks again if you knew what to look for. They were pissed that our government or whoever was messing with the wildlife, so they gave them the name the Mole Dudes. So more friends were taken in to see them. One man took a camera with a big zoom lens and slow speed film and got some shots. When he went to pick up the photos at the big local store, the manager took him in the back room and said men in suits took his photos and for him to never come back to the store. There's more to the story, but I tried to send it to you a year ago, but it would not send, and my laptop went haywire. So if this makes it to you, I'll send the rest. I hope this doesn't cause any more trouble. Why should I fell? I'm in the wrong for telling the truth. Why should I fell? Sorry, that must mean, why should I tell? I'm in the wrong for telling the truth, JW. Okay, man, listen, send it. You made it. Send it. We want to hear this. And it's not the first time I've heard about steel doors found in the woods. It's not, for reals. But I haven't heard about nothing else sounds familiar. I've never heard about the steel doors and tracks and vehicles coming in and out of it, or the guys in black suits, all that other shit. So, send the rest of your story, man, alright? Send it in. We want to hear about this shit for sure. Alright, here we go. I got one more, and then I'm going to see if I can go eat some food. I'm going to try anyway. My family wanted to drive to the snow yesterday. We live in Silverfish near Los Angeles, so we ventured up the Angeles Crest Highway, about 1 hour drive to an elevation at 6,000 feet. There wasn't much snow, but we still managed to have some fun and sled around. On the drive back home, about 5,300 foot elevation, let me read that again, sorry you guys. On the drive back home, about 5,300 foot elevation, we all saw this being standing across the road on a rock. There were 2 cars pulled over, and I was driving so quickly, I joined them and grabbed my cell phone out of my pocket. The bummer is my zoom is partially broken because of a broken lens, but I still managed to take this shot of what I assume to be a female juvenile. I could clearly see the face, which looked like a Native American with an orangutan hairy body. I'm still in shock that we saw this just 45 minutes away from the big city. I'll send more pics soon as my sister-in-law Oh, they missed a comma. I'll send more pics soon, as my sister-in-law took some with film, and she promised to share when developed. Keep up the good work. Don't take any shit. I know you won't. Best, Red Dog. Okay, man, thanks for the share. Now, listen, you left some big holes in your story, all right? As in, was this being moving? Did it run? Did it jump? Did it fly? Did it disappear? Did it look at you? What happened? Right? When did you leave? How long were you there for? Which way did it go? There's a whole bunch of questions that could be shotgunned at you for your short story. So fill in the gaps when you email back, all right? And another thing, too, I'm almost, so everybody listening, I'm almost to the point where I'm not going to share any pictures unless you people with the pictures go back, get somebody to stand where the thing was you've taken a photo of and take comparison photos and send them in with your photo. Okay, guys? It means it's a world of a difference for you and everybody else, okay? Go back, put somebody there, go back, use the exact same camera, the same zoom, try to even mimic the same light, whatever, and put somebody there and recreate the photo, all right? And that'll help people become more enthusiastic about the photos you send in. But anyway, looking forward to it. You got more to this story, all right? So send us the rest of the story, and as soon as you get those other pictures, I'm sure everybody's going to be frickin' going bonkers wanting to see them, right? But for me, it's just a photo it's just a silhouette to me. I'm going to be straight up, I'm not being a dick. It's just I don't know what it is. I can't see it moving. I can't see face on it. I can't see nothing. It's just an outline of a person possibly standing on a rock. Don't know. I haven't a clue. I wasn't there, and I can't see a comparison, right? Anyway, send it back, man. Send it back. We're here. We're eager. We want to see and we want to hear. No. I got to get my butt moving. Hopefully I'm not feeling like this for 2 days. I can't stand losing a day. Shit. Drives me bonkers. I've been in here all frickin' day. What else? I got an email. Somebody sent an email. Some loser. Some loser that follows this channel, I'd imagine, obviously. Started a Rumble channel, and they called it The Facts by How to Hunt, or howtohunt.com. And the guy sent me a screenshot of his conversation. I guess he commented on it and said, "Hey man, you stole this channel." And the guy says, it's free world out here, and I'll sell it if you want. I'm like, right. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to go take out a loan. I have to purchase that Rumble channel title off of you. But anyway, I started the second channel, which will be the main Rumble channel. I'll put something on there shortly and share it with you guys here, and it's called the Round Table of Knowledge by How to Hunt. All right? It's got the same logo you see on the same silhouette you see on this channel, okay? And you'll be able to find it easy, and I'll share that with you guys shortly. So just so you know, I don't know why people do it. I haven't a clue, man. You can't scream to the world more clearly that you're just lifeless by trying to steal somebody's identity online. It's kind of creepy. But no big deal, harmless. But I'll send you guys the actual true channel I'm going to use nonstop for the official Rumble channel, all right? And then I'll get back to sharing more emails shortly.